From the start, a big thank you to Jetcraft for their support of this channel, and now straight into the sprint race at Silverstone on a glorious Saturday afternoon. Packed grandstands, well, almost packed. Great atmosphere with the crowd. To see Lewis Hamilton consolidate his pole, well, he didn't. It was Max Verstappen who won that race, and he won it off the line. Fabulous low-down torque from the Honda engine got him into the lead before they got into turn one. Lewis could do very little about it, even though, because Red Bull have put on more front wing overnight, which you're allowed to do, even though the cars basically are in parc fermé, the one thing you can still adjust is the front wing. Even though Red Bull put that front wing on to get around the understeer problem we talked about yesterday, even though there was quite a big difference in top speed, noticeable down Hangar Straight, probably 5-6 kilometers an hour between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Mercedes much quicker. It was Max who held on to score a very, very good win in this mini race, and thus to start from the pole for the Grand Prix. That was a great result for him. Lewis Hamilton, very disappointed, obviously, to have effectively won the pole yesterday and gone through the motions of what he normally goes through when he's got the pole. But now he's starting second, which will be a disappointment for him. But even more worrying for Mercedes is that Red Bull appear to have got around that understeer problem. So as it is now, with more front wing on the Red Bull, with less top speed, over the lap, Max Verstappen, very, very impressive in the way he was able to pull away from Lewis. Lewis did a very good job in response, and no doubt tomorrow the Grand Prix will be between these two drivers. But on this occasion, Lewis had to accept second best. Valtteri Bottas finished third. Mercedes started him on soft tyres. As I said yesterday, probably most of the runners would start on medium, which they did. But Valtteri was one of the guys who was on the soft. No surprise, really, thinking about it, for Mercedes to split their strategies like that, because with a short distance, in theory, you should be able to get through with a soft tyre. And it kind of proved that way, although Max, Lewis and Valtteri all had blistered right fronts by the end of the race. So although, as Fernando Alonso said when he got into the Alpine for the little race within a race in Baku, that little sprint to the checkered flag right at the end, isn't it wonderful not to have to worry about tyre degradation? There was tyre degradation in this sprint race, as short as it was and as light as the fuel loads were. And very impressive, actually, to see the cars off the line on that lighter fuel load. They look really, really good through turns 1, 2 and 3 and down into the complex. So Valtteri finished third at the end, nursing that blister. But you've got to say, Valtteri did a very nice job for Lewis off the line, because he had grip with the soft tyre and he could have got P2 relatively easily. If it had been another driver in another team, he probably would have got it. But because it was Lewis, he backed away and finished a very good third, protecting Lewis, if you like, and a good result for him all round in terms of the team. So Valtteri will start third, and Charles Leclerc is fourth. Good to see Ferrari P4, probably not where they would have qualified had it been a normal qualifying session for the Grand Prix. So they will be saying, we love these sprint races. And as I said yesterday, Charles, one of the drivers, aggressive drivers, that will go for gaps and push the car as hard as he can in these little sprint events. He didn't have much option to do that because he couldn't really get near the Mercedes at all. He was kind of gasping for best, 2.5 seconds behind Valtteri most of the time, but a very good fourth for Charles, so he'll be happy about that. And the McLarens finished 5th and 6th, as they kind of would have in the order: Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo. But the star of this race, as we kind of predicted yesterday, was Fernando Alonso. He's a racer, he loves these short sprints, and he showed it today. I don't know where to start with Fernando, really. I mean, off the line, he chose the soft tyre, as he would. He's a racer. Let's just get some positions. We'll worry about looking after the tyres towards the end of the race. And that's how it worked. I mean, he was just fabulous. Outside, he was passing people in a way you never normally would see in a Grand Prix off the line, with relatively light fuel, with the grip from the softer tyre. He was passing everybody on the outside, particularly Lando Norris. By the time they got to Copse, he'd passed about 5 cars. By the time they got to Copse, I think Lando kind of thought it was his corner, and Fernando just goes around the outside of him at Copse. Really impressive to see. The other thing about Fernando that I thought was brilliant was how he was weaving so obviously on Hangar Straight to keep everybody behind him, particularly the McLarens, which is not allowed. Well, it's you're not allowed to change direction under braking. So he would argue, well, you know, I was just weaving. And of course, he can get away with it because Max, purely, really, he would argue, just to get temperature in the tyres. He's on the medium tyre like Lewis. So you can say, oh no, I was just weaving, just get the tyre temperature up. I'm sure that's what Fernando will say if the stewards do have a word to him. They put out a message towards the end to Fernando saying, you've been given a warning, which to my mind means he's probably going to get away with it. And good luck to him for that, really. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there that would say, oh, it was terrible, he shouldn't have been weaving that much. But I thought it was just great to see Fernando being a race driver amongst a lot of other guys who were kind of cruising. I mean, yesterday I used the word droning around behind the Mercedes when describing how I thought Sergio Perez's race would go. I mean, he started fifth. He got beaten off the line by the McLarens. He was kind of behind them, and then he would say in dirty air, he lost it in Beckett's and had a big spin, didn't hit anything, rejoined, but towards the end of the race, Red Bull said, retire the car, Sergio. I presume something happened in that moment. But if you're Sergio Perez, you will say, I don't like this format. I don't want these sprint races. Let's get back to Grand Prix racing, as predicted. So in that sense, I think the sprint race is quite good because it's sifting through the races. And for Sergio Perez, who started fifth, he's now going to be starting, back of the grid. So not good for him. George Russell was the other driver I mentioned, and sure enough, on the first lap, I think I said he's not going to worry too much about front wing end plates in the opening lap, and sure enough, bang, into Carlos Sainz, as predicted. So George did pretty well. He lost one place as a result of that, but he'd be pretty happy still to be starting P9, still in the top 10, so very good, fun day for the fans watching George Russell today. Let's just have a look at some of the other runs. I'll go through them. So Lewis lost one place as a result of the sprint. Max obviously gained one place as a result of the sprint. Valtteri went sideways, didn't do anything, stayed P3s, as did Charles Leclerc, very good job. Sergio Perez lost 15 places. Lando gained a place as a result. Daniel Ricciardo gained a place as a result. George lost that place. Carlos Sainz lost 2 places as a result of that moment, but regained a lot of ground. He was spectacular to watch. That was good. In terms of the sprint race, does it work? Carlos's drive through the field was a good thing. Sebastian Vettel gained a couple of places. Fernando Alonso gained 4 places in the end. He got beaten by the 2 McLarens because the soft tyres did go off. But he still beat the 2 Aston Martins to the finish, and you could argue probably, I mean, Fernando was saying yesterday he had traffic and he could easily have made Q3 had he not had that, easily lost 2 to 3 tenths. Would he have beaten Sebastian Vettel in qualifying? Good question. Don't know the answer to that. Possibly, maybe not, probably not. So from Fernando's point of view, and certainly from Alpine's point of view, very, very good day for them and great to have that race. And just in comparison, Esteban Ocon, who had qualified 13th, finished 10th, so he gained as well. So everyone at Alpine will be thinking, yes, more of this, please. Pierre Gasly's been a bit of a mystery all weekend so far. He qualified 12th and finished 12th. Not the AlphaTauri Honda doesn't look to be brilliant around Silverstone. That's a platitude, obviously, but I don't know. I'm sure they'll say, oh, we knew this circuit wasn't going to suit us. I don't know why they wouldn't, why it wouldn't suit them. But anyway, there you go. Esteban Ocon, as I say, Giovinazzi lost a place. Lance Stroll gained a place. He had a pretty bad day yesterday, so that was pretty likely to happen. Yuki Tsunoda didn't do anything. And Kimi gained 4 places. Kimi qualified 17th, another terrible qualifying for him, but he's now going to be starting 13th. So, I don't know, doesn't make a lot of difference, is it? They're quite far back. I think the thing now is that Red Bull know they got a race car anyway. I mean, this time yesterday, it looked as if Mercedes had a big advantage, but now they've, just by the simple thing of front wing, they managed to get quite a lot of that back. But they do have a top speed problem that may be relevant in the race. Depends, I think, whether the race is punctuated by safety cars or not and other stuff that may come into it. And equally, it also depends, of course, on whether Max makes a good start and because if Lewis gets in front, all bets are off. Because if you've got a top speed advantage and you can control the pace around the corners, it's not all gone for Lewis, Hamilton and Mercedes. But if Max gets in front, he may have to push the tyres quite hard early on, but then again, sitting behind the Red Bull, it'll be difficult for Lewis to keep the tyres in one piece as well. Don't forget, for tomorrow, they can all choose the tyres on which they would like to start. So that's another little spicy thing. You'll get possibly a Fernando again, maybe a Leclerc, somebody like that, or maybe even a George. Having said all that, I think it's kind of a shame that George didn't start on the soft tyre as well, because why not? If Fernando did it and it worked, why wouldn't George have looked at that? Anyway, he didn't. He started on the medium. But for tomorrow, you may find a few drivers in the midfield, high midfield perhaps, thinking, yeah, let's go for the soft as well and do something spectacular in the early laps. But it will be different because, of course, the fuel loads will be much, much higher. So that's it. I think it worked well. I think it worked well enough for Formula One to say, okay, we'll try that again. And I think it worked well enough for Formula One to say, and let's not go the reverse grid way. I think that would be horrendous for Formula One if we went that tacky. I don't think we want reverse grids, but I think this worked well. And provided we keep it like this, and providing the goal of winning this race is to get the pole and not to start P10 or something, I think it's a really good thing. So there we are. Thanks again to Jetcraft, and see you all tomorrow.